As you get older, you start realizing there are things about life you wish someone had taken the time to explain to you when you were younger. Not just little comments here and there, but the kind of lessons you only really understand after you've lived through them. When I look back now in my life, 4 people really stand out as the ones who taught me those lessons. My parents, my wife's sister, and a man named Jack, who was more like a father to me than my own dad was. Each one of them taught me something different. And honestly, I wish I knew those lessons much earlier in life. When I was growing up, life wasn't always easy. My parents divorced when I was a young age. My mom worked 3 jobs trying to keep things together for me and my brother. But she still made time for us whenever she could. She'd come to all my baseball games when she was able to, and she took me and my brother camping whenever possible. Some of my best memories with her from those camping trips. And whenever I was sick, had a dentist appointment, needed to see the doctor, she always made a point to take the time off of work and be there for me. When I was around 14 years old, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And after her diagnosis, I remember the baseball games, looking into the stands and feeling sad that she wasn't able to be there anymore. She wasn't there cheering me on. But when I got home, the first thing she'd always ask was, "How was the game? How did you do?" From that point on, I pretty much became her primary caregiver. There were times I had to change her bedpan, adjust her morphine, and take care of things around the house. During her cancer, I was the one that had to do a lot of the grocery shopping. We were on food stamps back then, and I remember standing in line at the grocery store, 16 years old, hoping no one would see me from school. I don't want them seeing me paying with food stamps. That felt pretty embarrassing. My brother mostly kept to himself during that time, stayed in his bedroom. Back then, there were moments I wished that he would step in and help out more. Looking back now, I realize people deal with situations like that in a different way. With everything we were going through, those years with my mom are some of the happiest memories I have. I got to spend time with her every day. And at that age, I wasn't worrying about tomorrow. I was living day to day because that was what mattered. My mom passed when I was almost 18, before I graduated high school, and life changed pretty quick. Losing my mom forced me to grow up a lot earlier than most kids. I suddenly had to figure out what the next chapter of my life was going to look like. I ended up moving in with my best friend, Mike, and his family, who I had already adopted as my second set of parents. And his dad, Jack, was one of the most important influences in my life. When I was younger, I was an angry kid. I punched and kicked holes in the walls more than once. And Jack was the guy who'd come over and fix them. One day, he finally said something to me that stuck with me for the rest of my life. "You need to learn how to fix these yourself, because I can't keep coming over and repairing your mistakes." The thing was, Jack already had 2 jobs. He was the head of maintenance for a large hospital, and he started around 5 in the morning, got home around 2 in the afternoon. And most of those afternoons, he'd turn around and go hang drywall for a few contractors that he worked for. When I was 13 years old, he started bringing me along so I could learn the trade. His thinking was simple. If I was going to make the holes in the walls, I should learn how to repair them. Jack didn't just teach me about hanging drywall. He taught me how to ride a motorcycle. He taught me how to drive, and it wasn't an automatic, it was a manual transmission. But the most important thing that Jack taught me wasn't about tools. He taught me about God, responsibility, and living right. I went to church with Jack and his family a lot back then. He'd come pick me up on Wednesday nights for youth group and on Sunday mornings for Sunday school and church. There were a few times where I decided I didn't want to go. I'd rather sleep in or sit around the house and be lazy. I remember vividly those days I didn't want to go. My mom sounded a little disappointed that I wasn't going, because she knew being around Jack and his family was good for me. Jack didn't just teach me how to fix the holes in the walls. He helped me fix some of the holes inside me too. And looking back now, I realize how much that mattered. Learning the trade stayed with me my whole life. Over the years, I've remodeled homes, finished basements, built projects outside, and even flipped houses. When I first met my wife, I was remodeling the house that I had lived in. Later on, she told me that seeing someone who could build and fix things was something she really admired. Every time I use those skills over the years, I've thought about Jack, because he's the one who took the time to teach me. My dad, completely different story, different influence in my life. He's very business focused. By most people's standards, he was successful. But the only time I ever spent with him growing up was when we were hunting or fishing. Those were the moments when I actually got to know him a little bit. When my mom passed, we were spreading her ashes in the Puget Sound. I was almost 18. I was standing arm in arm with my brother at the back of the boat while people were saying their goodbyes to my mom. There were a few times that my dad tried to come over, give me a hug. I wouldn't let him in. And a few days later, when I was packing my stuff to go move in with Mike and his family, I looked at him and I asked, "Do you know why I didn't let you in to hug me?" He nodded, shook his head as he sat there. I asked him, "Where were you when I hit the home run to win the baseball game? Where were you when I broke my foot in the woods building the fort? Where were you when I was dressed up for the high school prom? Where were you in my life?" For the first time in my life, I saw my dad cry. From that moment on, he started trying to be a bigger part of my life. When he passed away about 4 years ago, there weren't many people at his memorial. My brother and I didn't even go. That experience taught me something important. Success in life isn't just what you accomplish. It's about being present for the people who matter. One thing I try to do now when I'm out in the world is something very simple. I try to make people smile. The cashier at the grocery store, they deal with rude customers all day long. People are in a hurry. People are frustrated. The same goes for waitresses, waiters, or anyone working with the public. And if I can brighten someone's day just a little bit, why not? To me, it takes just as much effort to be kind as it does to be rude. My wife had a sister who lived that way every day. She didn't have a lot of money. She and her husband and 2 kids rented the house that they lived in from my father-in-law. But she had a huge heart for people. She loved being involved in other people's lives and helping wherever she could. When she passed from cancer about 5 years ago, before she turned 50, something happened that really stuck with me. Around 800 people came to her memorial. Even now, years later, I still hear stories about the impact she had on people. She didn't leave behind a lot of things, but she left behind hundreds of people whose lives were better because she was part of them. Looking back now, those 4 people taught me something important about life. My mom taught me how to appreciate the time we have today and to live in the present. Jack showed me how one person taking the time to mentor someone can change everything. My dad showed me that being present matters more than success. And my wife's sister showed me that the real legacy of life is the people you impact. And the older I get, the more I realize something simple. The real measure of life isn't just what we accomplish or how successful we become. It's the lives we've touched along the way. Anyway, just a few things that I've been thinking about lately. I've got a lot more stories from the road that I'd like to share.